Over the 30-year history of the Legend of Zelda series, Hyrule has been menaced by a wide variety of villains, from Aghanim to Zant. But no matter how many baddies Link has battled, none of them have endured quite like the Demon King Ganon. This porcine peril has been sealed and banished, and on very rare occasions slain, only to rise again and unleash his evil once more. So, sharpen your Master Sword and let's slaughter some swine, because I'm Moose, and this is how to kill Ganon. Ganon's weakness is a secret to everybody, except us, because your first, best, and last line of defense against hate and malice incarnate are some simple silver arrows. Before there were any split timelines, reincarnated heroes, and plural princesses, there was simply the Legend of Zelda. This groundbreaking NES classic set Link on a quest to reunite 8 shards of the Triforce of Wisdom and defeat Prince Darkness Ganon before he could conquer Lesser Hyrule. In Link's first confrontation with the ultimate evil, the teleporting tyrant is weakened by blows from the warrior's blade. The bloodied boss turns red, but Ganon will get a second wind unless you found the ultimate weapon, the Silver Arrow. One shot to the suffering swine will end his menace for good. And unlike most Zelda games where he gets sealed or banished or blah 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 blah, this Ganon is DED dead, like deader than Fallout 76 dead. He's so dead, the whole plot of the second game revolves around his minions trying to kill Link so they could drip his blood on Ganon's ashes and resurrect their Dark Lord in an unholy rite. In fact, the next time we see Ganon, it's centuries before the first Zelda game in A Link to the Past. After annihilating Aghanim, Ganon is revealed as the true mastermind behind the hijacking of Hyrule, so Link journeys to the Dark World and slays the swine once more. The battle deep in the bowels of a pyramid plays out similarly to their 8-bit encounter, and much like their NES battle, Ganon gets ganked by 4 shots from silver arrows. As the series progressed, the silver arrows were replaced by light arrows, which are a little less lethal, but still incredibly effective against the King of Evil. In Breath of the Wild, Link awakens the Calamity Ganon prematurely and easily destroys his corporeal chimera form. But things get a little trickier once his spirit escapes into Hyrule Field. No blade can pierce the mystical malice, but as always, Zelda has a plan. She gives Link the Bow of Light and paints mystical targets across Ganon's being, and with enough hits, the core of the Dark Beast is exposed. So Link fires the kill shot, while Zelda collapses Ganon into a shining singularity. From Ganon's first appearance to 4 swords and beyond, ranged attacks are an excellent strategy if you want to skewer some pork, but sometimes you need to get up close and personal. That's where the Master Sword comes in handy. After a brief mention in the Link to the Past manual, Ocarina of Time introduced us to Ganon's human form, the Gerudo warlock known as Ganondorf. This studly sorcerer who haunts young Link's nightmares seizes control of Hyrule during the hero's long slumber. But after 7 years of sleep, Link awakens armed with the Blade of Evil's Bane and confronts the great King of Evil in his throne room. After hours of cuckoo catching and bombchu racing, Link's reflexes are almost as sharp as his sword, allowing him to easily reflect Ganondorf's magic back in his face. A barrage of light arrows drops the Demon Lord to the ground, opening him up for a flurry of strikes that leaves him with severe internal bleeding. With his dying breath, Ganondorf collapses the castle around him and rises from the rubble, resurrected by the Triforce of Power as a behemoth boar. Separated from the Master Sword, Link is forced to bludgeon Ganon with his Bigoron Blade or Megaton Hammer, although judging from Smash Brothers, a yo-yo or a fire hydrant would work just as well. Once Link is reunited with his blade, Zelda holds the beast at bay while Link plunges the Master Sword between his beady eyes. However, even slicing his brain in two doesn't kill the King of Evil. He's sealed away by the sages and curses Link with his last breath. Hundreds of years later, Ganondorf emerges once again, and with no heroes in sight, the goddesses flood Hyrule in an attempt to drown the despot. It's not the greatest plan, but after a new Link arises, this solemn, noble samurai Ganondorf falls to his eternal foe once more. After defeating a puppet of his pig form, Zelda's light arrows weaken the Wicked One, and after some precise parries, Link embeds the Master Sword squarely in Ganondorf's skull, turning him to stone as the oceans pour in around him. In Twilight Princess, Ganondorf is actually mortally wounded long before the game begins, when the sages sentence him to death and plunge a sword of light through his chest. The Triforce of Power keeps him alive, so the sages decide to stuff him in the Twilight Realm and let someone else deal with it. Someone like Link. After dealing with the tertiary antagonist Zant, Ganondorf hijacks the game and reveals himself as the true villain. First, he possesses Zelda, but his spirit is easily exorcised after a few rounds of Dead Man's Volley. Then, he transforms into his Dark Beast form, but the gaping, glowing wound from his botched execution is still present on his little pig belly. After enough wailing on the weak point, Ganon returns to his Gerudo body, and after a thrilling horseback chase, Link and Ganondorf clash in single combat. Using the ending blow taught to him by the ancient hero of old, Link plunges the Master Sword through the Dark Lord's chest, finishing what the sages started long before. Like a proud warrior, Ganon dies on his feet, and as far as the mainline games go, that's pretty much it. But we're not done yet, because Ganon's shadow looms large across the sprawling Zelda series. So in our last section, let's talk about copies, clones, and non-canon Ganons. Skyward Sword takes place earlier than any entry in the franchise and introduces us to Demise, the demonic entity that would be reborn as Ganon throughout the ages. For all intents and purposes, he's the same being, but since he's not technically Ganon, we don't technically need to tell you that his only weakness is a lightning charge strike from the Goddess Sword. Meanwhile, in handheld Hyrule, you battle a nightmarish shade of Ganon in Link's Awakening, and both Oracle games climax with a battle against the resurrected Dark Lord. But since Zelda wasn't sacrificed to bring about his rebirth, this mindless husk is easily dispatched. Similarly, in A Link Between Worlds, Ganon is merged with the Stylian sorcerer Yuga, and the hybrid monster is murked with a lethal dose of light arrows. Now, the above games might occupy a slightly lower tier in the Zelda pantheon, but make no mistake, they're as canonical as the Happy Mask Salesman is creepy. So let's close with a look at some of Ganon's goofier incarnations, starting with the infamous and extremely off-brand CDI games. In Faces of Evil, Link's resolve is tested when the amorphous green frogman who claims to be Ganon offers him ultimate power.
Join me, Link, and I will make your face the greatest in Koridai, or else you will die.
But the hero of time refuses and throws the book at him, literally.
No! Not into the pit! It burns!
Once the magic book of Koridai touches the King of Thieves, he becomes trapped within its pages for all eternity, or until you pop in the Wand of Gamelon CD. It's basically the same deal, only this time, Zelda herself gets to throw the magic MacGuffin at the malicious monster, binding him in golden chains and trapping him in a book again because new animation is expensive.
No! You haven't seen the last of me!
Zelda's adventure is somehow even weirder, using digitized sprites and live-action cutscenes in place of bizarre Russian cartoons. This cyber demon-looking dude is supposed to be Ganon, and after whacking him enough times with her wand, the tyrant turns into Taz and vanishes in a whirlwind. Last and certainly least, We have Ganon's only animated incarnation from the short-lived Legend of Zelda cartoon from 1989. Now, in the grand tradition of cash-in kids shows, this living embodiment of death and destruction is cast as a bumbling, snorting pigman who gets his ass repeatedly kicked by the most incompetent Link in history.
Well, there's only one thing I can say, I guess.
And that is?
Excuse me, princess?
This Ganon is bested by bees,
Bees? Bees! Bees! Oh!
exploding magnets,
It's overloading! It's going to blow!
he gets sucked into a magical jar, and he accidentally drops his own evil lair down on his head on more than one occasion. It's easily the Demon King's lamest incarnation, but that's sort of the beauty of this whole franchise. With Zelda, if you don't like how the characters look or act or feel, just wait a console generation and you'll get a brand new, wildly different interpretation of the whole saga. Still, no matter how much the series changes from game to game, certain constants will always remain. There will always be a Triforce, there will always be a hero, there will always be a princess, and there will always be a truly legendary villain that's damn hard to kill. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed How to Kill Ganon, the second How to Kill about video game bosses, and believe me, we want to do more. So keep the suggestions coming. Who should we cover next? Dr. Wily, Dr. Robotnik, Shao Kahn, Shang Tsung, M. Bison, Revolver, Ocelot? Let us know, leave a comment, and please subscribe to Now This Nerd.